Welcome back to On the Same Team, where we're all about exploring what it takes to build a championship culture, whether that's in sports, business, or your own personal lives. Today's guest is a perfect example of what happens when you refuse to stay down after a setback. For over 20 years, he was a pillar in the Siouxland healthcare community, serving in senior leadership roles at our major hospitals. But in 2019, a life-altering accident forced him to apply his expertise to his own survival. After a grueling journey through chronic pain and dozens daily medications, he didn't just recover, he transformed. Today, he's a nurse, an entrepreneur, and a fellow podcaster, and the founder of Thrive Wellness Center. He's here to help us move past just getting by so we can start winning. Damon Pierce, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate having me on, brother.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day. I want to start with just kind of how you got to Sioux City. I know this isn't like where you were born and grew up, but how Sioux City became home and what brought you here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Alabama. I moved all around. My dad was a nuclear engineer, so we moved all around, and he could be on plants for a few months to a couple years. I've lived in numerous different states, Texas, Delaware, Virginia, California, but really I moved here. I went back to Alabama, graduated high school, started college down there. I went to junior college, and I went to Troy State for a year. And then I moved up here with some family, my brother and his kids. I have an aunt and uncle that have lived up here for many years, and so moved to be around some family. My mom was very ill, and my dad was working overseas, and so just moved here to Siouxland in actually 2000, and ended up getting a job, going to school here, meeting my wonderful wife, who her family's been from Siouxland for generations, and I've called Siouxland home since 2000. It's a great place.
Nice. Troy State, I'm gonna tell you I know where that is because I'm a Husker fan. We used to play Troy State all the time. Like I don't know the last time the Huskers have played Troy State, but that was like, all right, we got Troy State on the
I
calendar.
remember that was when we actually moved to Division One. We were one double A for many years, and then we moved to Division One, and we scored on you guys probably 20 years ago. That was about 40 points or so.
Well, I mean, Troy State might beat Nebraska now. That's probably why we don't schedule them anymore.
So,
So that's an Alabama school, though?
I'm sorry.
That's an Alabama school?
Yeah, so it's right outside of Montgomery in a little town called Troy, and so yep,
Eh,
Troy State Trojans.
yeah. Nice, nice. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Now I know where it's at. I never knew that. But awesome. So you came to Siouxland, and how did you get into, the nursing field and just the medical field? And what was kind of that path through that experience in that industry?
I was really just trying to find my way when I moved up here. It was a little bit of culture shock living close to Panama City and the beach, moving up here in the frigid temps, and just trying to find my way. And so I've got a bunch of family who is in the healthcare field, and I went to WIT initially, and I took some EMT courses, thinking maybe that I wanted to be a paramedic. And then I was like, man, I don't know if I want to be ditch diving when I'm elder, when I'm older.
Yeah.
That kind of spurred my interest. I enjoyed healthcare. I enjoyed taking care of people, and so then I kind of enrolled in WIT and started taking some of their nursing classes. Got my degree there, and then I went to Bellevue University afterwards. Got a degree in healthcare management, and then kind of finished my education at Briar Cliff, getting a second bachelor's degree in nursing, and then a master's in healthcare administration.
Okay, nice. So you probably get a lot of alumni letters asking for donations.
I do actually. I'm on the alumni board at WIT, and then I get some from a lot of. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, somebody told me Bellevue's like one of the largest online schools in the country now.
That's true. I actually just recently got onto LinkedIn, and and all of a sudden these Bellevue alumni pop out. I'm like, holy smokes! I can't believe that there's that many people that went to Bellevue.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I knew some people that went there, and when I was in school in 2004, like I mean, I'm from Nebraska, but I never heard of it. Like they've done really well, which is awesome. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So you got into, were you like an on the floor nurse for a time, or okay, you were?
Yeah, most of my career. So I started off my career in the burn unit at St. Luke's. I was a wonderful job. That closed shortly thereafter I was there, so I was only in the burn unit, I think, for about a year and a half. That closed. And then I transitioned over to Mercy, where I worked in the ER and cardiovascular ICU. So working with open heart patients. And then from there, I ended up going to the Dune Surgical Hospital, where I was there for 16 years, kind of working my way up from staff nurse to charge nurse, assistant manager, manager, director, and then ended my nursing career there. Not ended my career, but I ended up being the chief nursing officer there, and so very good job. I loved it, great place, and so I just kind of steered in a little bit different direction when I started my own business.
Yeah. So the surgery center, that's what's now like CNOS took it over, right? Am I thinking of the same place or it's
Doctors are
still the
part of
same place?
across the street from CNOS, so it's the Dune Surgical Hospital where actually the surgeons, the CNOS guys, and a bunch of other surgeons actually do perform the surgeries
Okay.
across the street from their clinic.
Okay. Yeah, but I was just, yeah, I mean, I think I've had a couple surgeries there. So, um,
Most people have. They're busy, man.
yeah, yeah. All with my knees. I'm lucky that my shoulders have never been touched for my back, but got a few knee operations. So, yeah, awesome. Well, that's pretty cool. So you you said you met your wife. She's a Sioux City native. Um, was it during your medical career or somewhere in there that you guys connected, or how did you guys connect?
Actually, when I moved up here, one of my first jobs. I got a job at MCI. Remember the old phone company in Sergeant Bluff? And so we were both in school, and we were working at MCI. We met each other. We were in the same bay there. We kind of met each other, and the rest is history. Been together for 23 years or 26 years. We've been married 23 years. Got four beautiful kids, and call Siouxland home. Like she's got a big family, big extended family here, and so it's great.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. Like I I'm actually the office I'm sitting in right now. Dawn, she worked at MCI for like 18 years. And then when they closed down, she came to the Jeff Ayler's agency. And then I was blessed to, keep her on when I took over the agency. But yeah, like MCI, the more people I meet from MCI, I'm like, this is like, I'm not from this area. I came here in 2004 to wrestle. But it's like, I always say half the people I meet are ex-Gateway and I'm starting to see like maybe 20% are ex-MCI. Like,
Right.
place employed a lot of people.
Most people, the vast majority of Siouxlanders have worked at one of those two businesses.
Yeah. So were you doing dials and like selling phone services and stuff?
I was more inbound, so people called in, doing customer service, trying to work my way through college, and so it was
Hmm.
a job while it lasted.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just kind of yeah, fun to hear about that, like yeah, there's a big MCI, place here and they're selling phone services. Yeah. And does MCI even exist anymore?
It does not. It closed years ago, probably
Yeah.
20 some years ago, but
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Some things come and go, right? So Allstate used to be a Sears, like Sears started Allstate.
oh, they did.
And yep, yep. So it started in the Sears store in Chicago, and Allstate's actually named after a Sears tire, which is kind of funny too. But yeah, and then basically, Allstate started taking off and Sears started going the other direction. I don't know if Sears exists anymore or not,
I
but
don't think
yeah.
so.
Yeah, Allstate's yeah doing really well. So and I always laugh like when people are like, oh, that place is gonna take over the world. I'm like, that's what everybody said about Sears too. Just remember that. Like Sears dominated, and now you don't, kids today never hear of it. So it's like
So
everything's
sad.
cyclical.
I never hear about Blockbuster. Remember when Blockbuster was just dominating everything, and they said Redbox would never make it. They didn't want to buy
Yeah,
Redbox, and Blockbuster went out of business years ago. And shoot, they were one of the biggest companies.
yeah, I love that place. I mean, I used to go to the one here all the time, and I remember they had like a three deal. You could get three movies and take them home and watch them. Like, yeah, and I love that experience too. I loved going there and like looking for movies, and like that was it was just a fun thing to do. But
It is a family, you know what I mean? You go Friday night, see what's in, rent a movie, or rent some video games. That was the way of life back then. It was fun.
yeah, yeah, kids will never know the experience of going to Blockbuster, seeing 30 copies all sold out, and you're like, dang it, now what are we gonna watch? That's
I
what we
mean,
came here for.
everything's at your fingertips. They don't, and you would go there and you're like, oh man, all 30 copies, and you'd be so
Yeah.
when you got to find something else.
Yeah, yeah, those are, those the life of disappointment. I always, my kids today, I'm like, you guys complain about the dumbest crap. Like, I used to have to go to Blockbuster and get disappointed. You'll never have that experience.
Watch MTV all day just to hear one song and watch one video.
Hmm.
Now you can play it over and over and over on repeat at your fingertips. They don't understand. They will never appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, that's the truth. But yeah, well, so you had 20 years in that, and then you decided, I want to start my own business, and I led into a little bit about some of the catalysts to that, but can you kind of just, I guess explain, what that catalyst was and kind of the process for saying like, I want to be a business owner.
Yeah, so a pivotal moment really was in 2019 when I was just driving to work one on February morning on the bypass, kind of over by Target and by the old Golden Corral, and I was slowing down for an accident in front of me, and somebody rear-ended me, sent me through the guardrail down a 50-foot embankment into a tree, and so that was kind of a turning point. Not only was it super scary and a near-death experience, you know what I mean? I was a trauma at the hospital, went there and ended up having neck and back injuries. Luckily, that's all I had, but ended up having two big back surgeries and a big lumbar fusion, and that's where really things kind of just continued to deteriorate. I got to a point where, and you mentioned it in the intro, but I was on 14 medications at one time. 3 years ago, my doctors had me on 14 medications that I was taking daily, and it was literally a pill box. And I got to the point where I was at a low. I mean, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was drained. I was not the dad I wanted to be. I wasn't the husband I wanted to be. I wasn't the Christian I needed to be. I wasn't the friend. I wasn't the employee, because I was just drained. And you can't, I say it a lot, but you can't give from an empty cup. And so there it was at a time where I had gained a bunch of weight. I just wasn't doing well. And my wife and a cousin of mine, a family member who was into the wellness world, they really kind of not so much did an intervention, but they kind of called me out and, Damon, you're not doing very well. And at the point I was like, yeah, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to realize that. You know what I mean? And so they're the ones that kind of said, you know what, here's some things. Why don't you try some different things? And I had one family member that asked me, and it sticks out to me, he said to me, he said, what's the goal to get off of these meds? What's the goal for the rest of your life? You know what I mean? And I'd never thought about that before, because it was just the state I was in. I was on this hamster wheel of life, and I didn't think about that. But he said, interestingly enough, he said, you have goals at work. You make your employees have goals. Your kids have goals in school. So what's your goal for health and wellness? And I was like, oh man, I didn't have a good answer for that. And he was brutally honest. And he said, Damon, you're smart enough, yet dumb enough to understand the definition of insanity. You know what I mean? Continue doing the same thing day in and day out and expecting different results. You all of a sudden think that you're going to be healthy? No, you're 43 at this age of your life, at this stage, and I felt like I was 80. Honestly, and so that's when they encouraged me to seek alternative treatments, and they said, hey, there's some stuff in Omaha. Why don't you go to Omaha and try that? So I ended up going to Omaha for almost a year. Every week I drove to Omaha, whether my kids had an activity or not. I got to a point where, and it's the airline philosophy, but it's counterintuitive to the parental philosophy or the healthcare philosophy, okay? Because parents, healthcare clinicians, they always take care of others before themselves, right? You would do anything for your kids, anything for them. But yet, you put your needs on the back burner. And so I completely switched that around, that philosophy. And I love my kids just like anybody else, but I understood that I couldn't give them the life that I wanted, and I couldn't have the life I wanted if I continued on that same trajectory. And so at that point, again, the airline philosophy that if something happens in the cabin, who do you put oxygen on first? Yourself. And so that's when I ended up really prioritizing myself and going to Omaha every Saturday. And so I missed a lot of things. I missed sporting events. I missed things. And I said, you know what? I have to do this. For long-term preservation, I have to do this. And that was really kind of what changed my life. That was really where I started understanding that there's more to life. You can be vibrant and energetic at any age or stage of life, but you've got to get back to restoring health. And that's the keep it simple, Sally philosophy. You know what I mean? KISS. And so that's when I started feeling better. And my wife and I got sick of driving. I said, you know what? Sioux City doesn't have any of this. Why can't we bring this to town? Number one, because I'm sick of driving. And number two, because I know there are other people out there struggling like I was struggling. So how can we better our community? So that's really the foundation and how Thrive Wellness came about.
What was it in Omaha that you said, all right, this is why I got to drive there and I got to get it from there because that's the closest option I have?
Yeah, so it was a few things. And so really it's kind of what we started with here. I started doing hyperbaric oxygen therapy, red light, cryotherapy, things like that to really bring down the inflammatory markers in my body and to kind of boost my mood, mental clarity, the endorphins in my body, and really for detoxification, to get rid of all these toxins, the environmental toxins. My diet was terrible at the time. I was addicted to sweets. I was a junkie. And all too often we talk about other addictions, but we fail to think about food addiction or sugar addiction, processed stuff. And I was that guy. I was the guy that had 10 cereals at my house all the time because I wanted variety, Hostess cakes, all that kind of stuff. And once you start detoxing, that stuff doesn't start tasting as well. And so those were the things that I really started doing. That I said, you know what? Why can't we bring these to town?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just progressed from there.
Nice. What was the process for, like saying like, okay, I'm gonna do this. How'd you, like was the place you were going, were they helping you like, hey, you could do this up there, this is how we did it, or like what was your education process like to figure out one, like what's sustainable, right? Like what can financially be successful and two, like how to just get into it and find the right stuff and be able to offer the right stuff to Sioux City.
Yeah, and that was concerning because Sioux City is a great place, but we're not the most progressive community out there, and so it was really honestly a leap of faith. And so I used some of my retirement funds. My wife and I put together most of our savings, and we financed a little bit, but it was a leap of faith. I prayed about it a lot. I have a cousin that's in the wellness world. He's very into that kind of stuff. He kind of guided us and mentored us. And then I started going all around the country. I literally went to Vegas. I went to San Antonio, Dallas, Tampa, all over, looking at what other places are doing and how it is helping with health optimization. Because realistically, when you're talking about these services, we're not selling services, we're selling health optimization. We're making people feel better, more energized, better mood, better mental clarity, decreased inflammation, so that the people that are my age can go out and play with their kids, you know what I mean? So they're not exhausted in the afternoon, so they can go out and run around the track with them. And so that's really what I started going. I went all around the country, and I still do. I mean, all around the country. And I'm going to Houston this weekend, and I'll visit some wellness centers there. And so it's all about, what can we do to bring new innovative wellness to the community. And I said before, I love Siouxland. And so my goal is really to keep people here. What can we do to keep people here rather than going to Omaha, Sioux Falls, and Des Moines?
Yeah. Yeah. So your cousin had some experience. Does he have like, what was his experience in the wellness industry and like what was it that he had that, made so much sense to communicate with him and get
Yeah.
him involved?
He not only he's a chiropractor, he's always been into wellness. He's into functional medicine. He's in with some very, very big names in the country, and kind of he knows wellness. He's lived it for a long time. I mean, he's one of those people that's had a McDonald's burger in his office for 15 years and it hasn't changed. It still looks exactly the same. No kidding. And so he's one of these people that has done it kind of the right way. And just seeing him and kind of eventually following some of his footsteps, but he did a lot of guiding with that and what he believes and what some of the therapies are. And there's a lot of holistic stuff in Omaha, believe it or not. So I went to a few different places looking at that, and I have 3 cousins that are chiropractors there, and so they're all into the health and wellness realm, and so it's kind of nice.
how about like the business side of it? Like where, was that something you figured out on your own, or did you have some mentorship into like the business side and the financial aspect? And, just from like what systems do you use to, make sure your customers are, having a good experience when they walk through the door with payment, or, I don't know if you guys use insurance or, like just, yeah, I mean that whole part, because I think, a lot of times like as entrepreneurs, like we have great ideas, right? And we're like, this is gonna be awesome, and the passion is there. But like just my experience even and who I am, like the financial side of it is probably where I struggle the most, right? Like I just always have this idea of like this should be the biggest thing in the world, like I don't know why this wouldn't work, right? In my head, this is a no-brainer, but financially is also has to work out. And again, I would say that for me, that's probably where I struggle the most. And where I have an accountant and like a fractional CFO advisor that are like hey, you're sucking over here. Like you need to put your eyes on this a little more. What was your guidance for there, or was it just figure it out on your own?
That's a great question because most people, I believe, that start businesses, are there for a reason. And so for me, I'm a healthcare, clinician. My wife is a nurse practitioner, so we didn't necessarily have all the business acumen. But we started with, we talked with the Small Business Development Council. We talked with Iowa West Coast Development, you know what I mean, and started getting
Yep.
out in the community. And they started steering us in the right direction. And so, number one, they helped out. And number two, they put us into contact with some other local business leaders and entrepreneurs. And since then, I've developed a very great group, small group of business leaders in the community that have been phenomenal mentors for me, that have been serial entrepreneurs, opened up numerous businesses, and they talk to me about that and guide me, give me some advice. I had a good coach that was teaching me through things, but the business aspect is the hard aspect of it because I believe in one thing, when people come in, treat them like family, treat them like you want to be treated, the old golden rule, and customer service is key. But in my business, it's all new. It's innovative wellness. Okay, a lot of my therapies aren't brand new. Hyperbarics has been around for 150 years or more. Red light therapy's been around for years. Cryotherapy's been around for years. We've been doing this on racehorses and stuff, elite racehorses, for 50 years, but yet people haven't been using. It's kind of crazy. But so education is the main thing. Education, 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 but surrounding yourself. I'm a big believer that you become a product of your environment. Okay, and so if you surround yourself around good people, and if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Okay, you're in the wrong room. Quit patting yourself on the back and get in a different room. Okay, and so find somewhere that there's bigger leaders, smarter people, and push yourself that push you. And so that's what it's about. You're a collegiate. You were a great collegiate wrestler. And so for you, if you're not in practice pushing yourself, really working with people that are pushing you, you're not going to be the greatest that you can be. And I think that's the same with business. I've got a great support group that I ask a lot of questions. I meet with them frequently, and they steer me and guide me in the right direction. And I think Siouxland, we have that in this community. Sometimes it's hard to find. You have to go out there because a lot of people are very competitive. But, we're all in this industry together. And people,
Yeah.
and especially, how do you argue against health and wellness? You know what I mean? How do you argue about healthier parents, healthier children, a healthier next generation? It's hard to argue with.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I always say like if you ask somebody for help and they don't give it to you, it's probably the wrong person to ask anyway, right? Like you probably, they probably saved you some time and energy to, so, a couple big things for me was, Tim Jagger, one of his things was always you're the average of your four closest friends, and like that's something that I've taken with me since probably, I don't know, maybe he told me in 2005, but. Um, it's like always who you spend time with and who you're giving your energy to, right? Like if they're people that you don't want to be, then that's probably a good thing. If there's somebody you're like, oh man, I hope I don't end up like that, then that's probably a bad thing. You probably need to like reallocate your time and your energy.
That's
Um,
true. And as we get older and as our things change, sometimes our friends groups or our social networks change. And so maybe not the ones you're hanging out with from high school or college. And so, you got to understand that. It doesn't mean that you don't love those people, you don't like them, but you also have to know where you're going, what your goals are. And I'm a very goal-driven person. I'm a process-oriented person, and so I understand that. And like you said, I've got people that help me. I've got an accountant. I got things like that kind of steer me in the right direction. And I think that CEOs or people like that, presidents, they don't always know everything. That's not it at all. They have a great team around them. That's what it's about. It's about getting people who have similar, goals that want to push themselves forward. And it's not about thinking the same. It's about exploring things. Failure's good. Okay, I mean, I encourage my employees to come here. You mentioned Tim Jager and his wife Robin is one of our greatest additions to our team, and she's phenomenal. She's doing colonics here in town. She's the only colon hydrotherapist in town within 90 miles, doing a phenomenal job. But I talk to Tim a lot too. One of the greatest dudes you'll ever meet. And he's a goal-driven guy. He likes it. I like when people challenge you. I like when people, give me constructive criticism.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, they are awesome and super blessed to have them in my life too. One of the things I read, and it sounds like, you've done an awesome job of this is, or maybe no, I didn't read it. I was in a small group with Brian Smith. He's the head wrestling coach down at Missouri. And, he told me his dad was a football coach and in college, and he always said like football coaches do a way better job than wrestling coaches of networking and sharing advice and just sharing what works. And like in wrestling, his big thing was we just get so worried, hey, we're going to give something up, or we know more than everybody else, we're just going to stay on our own track. But he said for some reason football coaches are the exact opposite. They go and they visit each other's offices and they sit and they learn about how you run your defense and your offense and the schemes. And he said that's where wrestling's missing. But I took that advice, to heart. And, I think that's one thing that I've done really well. I've done a lot of dumb stuff, but listening to, one to Tim Jagger and people like Brian Smith that give you advice and say like you need to go out and you need to learn from other people. Like that's it's so has been again just huge to my success when people are like, oh man, like how are you having success like that? Well, 99% of the time the answer is I stole this from this person. They told me to do it this way and it's working. It's like very rarely are any of my great ideas my ideas. They're mostly something that someone else told me like, hey, this is working for us. You should give it a shot. And I'm always optimistic enough. I think that's probably the lucky thing I have is I'm just optimistic to think, hey, that'll probably work for us too. And so I give it a shot. And a lot of times when somebody else is having success doing something, there's a reason, right? Like it works, and you should probably give it a shot. And yeah, like again, it sounds like I know you're a great networker. I've seen you at a lot of events, and it's like when you're doing that and you're passionate about something, people want to help you. And typically, like, yeah, I mean, successful people are successful for a reason. So when you get in the room and you learn from them, like, and you follow through, like those things work for a reason, and they're probably gonna work for you too. So yeah, Brian gave me some great advice on that, and I was also lucky enough to be right beside Steve Ryan in an office, and I seen it in action too. Like all these high school coaches would come in, and Steve would sit with them and give them, hey, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it. And then Steve and his staff would go and visit places. They flew down to like Texas one time, and I don't remember what school they visited, but it was kind of like just like again a realization of like they're winning national titles and they're still investing in going and learning from other people, and like that's just like so important. And that process of learning and growing never ends. So yeah, just again, great mentor. Steve is an awesome guy to have an office next to. When somebody's winning national titles, 3 feet away, you can soak up a lot of stuff from them.
Absolutely, very well said. And I'm a big believer that when people win or they're very successful, they are always raising the bar. Their goals change, and so I'm a big believer that complacency is the opposite of progress. And, and progress doesn't happen in our comfort zone. And so you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable, to pushing yourself. And so, when people like that go out and they're national championship winning, coaches, and they're still going out and learning all this. And then the next step of that is to teach the next generation. That's selfless right there. That's real, real good people. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
that's what it's about. It's about not becoming complacent. And that's what Thrive Wellness Center is about. That's what my podcast, Just Thriving, is about. It's about, steering away from the ordinary and becoming extraordinary, pushing yourself to be the best that you can possibly be at all ages and stages of life. And so, like you said, you can learn. I believe that you can learn something from everybody. And that means maybe something you don't want to implement, or something you do want to implement and kind of change a little bit and make it your own and put it into your own business. But there's a lot of people out there that I learn stuff from that I don't want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you said something there. Are you a golf fan?
I am, yeah.
Do you, when, I think I wasn't really into golfing much, but I just heard this, like from watching ESPN or something, but like Tiger Woods, like he was like dominating golf, and then he, got a new coach and changed his swing, right? Is that true? Like, is this something I made up?
I don't know that, to be
I think,
honest, but he's somebody that always sought perfection. You know what I mean? He said
yeah,
it his career forever. So I doubt he was complacent being, and I can't answer that. But again, somebody that is an absolute elite athlete. You know what I mean? One of the best in the entire world. And so how does he, when you're at that, you don't just say I'm the greatest. I'm gonna just kind of ride out the rest of my career. He continued to try. And I'm not a huge LeBron fan, but look at that guy. He's been playing for how many years? How does he do it? And he's got something on Netflix called Starting Five. Okay, it's with him, Jimmy Butler, Sabonis, and Anthony Edwards, and somebody else. But it just shows his recovery techniques, and it shows he's doing hyperbarics, red light, cryotherapy, cold plunge, hot tub, same exact stuff that we have here at Thrive and Sioux City, Iowa. But how has he taken care of himself and played for 20-some years at the most elite level possible? And that's what it's about.
yeah, yeah. I've read some stuff on him, and yeah, I think, I feel like he is one of those guys that has maybe changed a little bit of the game and said like, this is how I make money, and I'm gonna keep investing in it, and like change that mindset a little bit, and I think I read a lot of stuff on like Derrick Henry too, the running back for the Ravens now, he's got the same mindset of like, if I make $10 million with this body, I'm gonna put 10% back into it, so I'm gonna spend $1 million on my health and wellness
I
and my
use him
body.
as an example a lot because
Yeah,
his nutritional habits, his hydration habits, his workout habits are insane. That guy is a machine, and that's what it takes to stay at the peak. And I'm an Alabama fan, so I'm a huge fan of his. And so, but he's great. He's a monster. And how does he continue playing at that level? It's because he's disciplined, he's intentional, and he has great habits. And the same goes into business, because
yeah,
essentially you and I are doing the same in our own business.
yeah, yeah. So what is it, like you've mentioned a few things, but when somebody walks in the door at Thrive, what is kind of the process for understanding, hey, we have these things that are at your fingertips and available to you, but this is kind of the direction that we think you need to go. And like how do you decide what's most beneficial for somebody and work through what they need?
Well, that's the beauty of it, because it's not everybody fits in a bucket. It's not algorithm based, okay? It's not, hey, instead of Jake, you are high blood pressure, okay? And so it's not that. Here's the algorithm for high blood pressure. People walk in, we look in their eyes, we shake their hand. It's a personalized approach. When's the last time that you sat down with a provider for 30 minutes to an hour really talking about physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health, nutritional habits, exercise habits? When was the last time? Most people can't even think of that time, because it's typically a 5-minute appointment. You spend an hour in the waiting room, then you go in the back, 5 minutes. They say, hey, how are your meds doing? Good. Okay, you're good to go. And then you walk out and you're just like, man, I still feel like crap. You know what I mean? I'm still not healthy. I'm managed, but are you optimized? or your meds are managing things, but yet you're still falling asleep in the afternoon, you're still not feeling well. And that's the beauty of health optimization. And so when people come in here, we ask them, hey, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And we believe and it's called 4Ds of health transformation, okay? And the first is discovery. And that means having a meeting with them, okay? And really discovering what their problems are, what their ailments are, what their goals are, and then being able to collaborate in order to achieve that goal. And the next is diagnostics. And so that second D is important because sometimes you have to look under the hood. Sometimes you have to, do a little bit of basic blood work or genetic testing or hormone optimization or food sensitivity testing if you're dealing with gut issues, headaches, anything like that, because we're big believers in two things, okay? Gut health and detoxification, okay? Because if inflammation is the root cause for a lot of issues, okay, arthritis, inflammation, okay, gut health, inflammation, okay, all this stuff. And so getting down and really understanding that and figuring that out, that's the second part. Then the third part is detox. So our provider talks to you with how can you naturally detox your body? Okay, how can you get rid of the toxins? And you are a great wrestler, so I doubt you are eating fast food 7 days a week. Okay, but because that's what I like about wrestlers and people that have to meet weight, boxers, MMA people. They're very disciplined and they understand where they're at. They understand their hydration. They understand their nutrition, and they have to meet that goal. That's not the case for the other 99% of the world. Okay, and so you're eating poorly. You don't know how many people come in here and they cannot remember the last time they had a nutrient-dense meal. Literally. I talk to people all the time. I'm like, when was the last time you had a really good meal, a home-cooked meal with meat, fruits, veggies, you know what I mean? And they can't remember it because, again, their healthy meal is Chick-fil-A, is a quarter pounder, and nothing against those big companies, okay? But it's processed. It's highly processed, okay? And so detox is huge. And then the last is discipline. We have to talk to them about being disciplined, okay? You have to create, again, goals for yourself, and you have to be disciplined towards those, and we help people work towards those. So if you want to be healthier, and we talk to them, can you be healthy with your current nutritional habits? Can you get to where you want to run a 5K all of a sudden, and you're eating fast food twice a day, you're not meal prepping, you're not drinking enough water, you're not exercising, you know what I mean? You have a sedentary job, but yet your goal is to run a 5K? That can't happen. And I mean, you see what I mean? And so you couldn't become the collegiate wrestler you were if you didn't have a coach pushing you and putting together a tailored plan. That's what we do here, and it's unique. Each person is unique. While we have 30 different services here, no one uses all 30 services. Okay, I mean, we tailor plans based on that, and the beauty is that it's individualized. It is not based on a diagnosis.
Nice, love that. Yeah, I'm huge on coaching. I love coaching. I always say like that's half the reason I married my wife is she loves to coach the hell out of me, and I love being coached. So and I mean I've always been that way. I think I always will be. It's like somebody that wants great things for me. I'm like I'm all in on that. Keep it coming because I just understand the fact that you see my success in a different light than I do, even though we're still trying to get me to the same place, right? And I need that other perspective. So, I mean, I'm a huge fan of coaching in any aspect, and I think it's a huge thing. I mean, I have a personal coach still, and I still lean on people that are mentors to give me, advice, whether it be good or bad sometimes, but I still just love it. So I love that you guys are hammering that. When you're trying to spread that message, like what is kind of your tactic to get out, what you guys are doing and how people should, know what you're doing and get involved with it.
So we've got a good team. I've got a good marketing team that I have here in town and advertising. I use different avenues, but really it's a spray and pray philosophy. And so I've done billboards. I have 5 or 6 radio commercials a week. I do your sports show. We're the official recovery center for the Sioux City Musketeers. We do stuff with the Sioux City Bandits, the Sioux City Musketeers, Explorers, Sioux Lane United Soccer. I sponsor a lot of things here. We do stuff with different MMA, One Cap Combat Academy. I do TV commercials, and so just really getting the word out there and educating. And then I do a lot with the Siouxland Chamber of Commerce. They're great. I serve as a Green Code ambassador for them, so I'm out there at many events. That's been a very influential part of the marketing and advertising, and I think that everybody should be part of the Chamber of Commerce in Siouxland. They're a great organization. They really help. But I think that there's a lot of things. I do a lot of networking and advertising and marketing in the wellness world, in the athletic world. We have NIL deals with some athletes here in town, some elite athletes who are Division I athletes here soon. And so they come in, they talk about their stories, their health and wellness, their recovery journeys, and just a lot of that. And so I think that it's a multifaceted approach when you get out there. I don't think it's one thing. We do SEO, we do a lot of Facebook. I've got a YouTube channel for both Just Thriving and Thrive Wellness Center. And so I think that as many things that I can do to get out there and people to surround myself with, I think that's the key.
Um, when you're doing all that stuff, what is like critical to make sure that the Thrive Wellness Center is still operating at a high level when you're gone?
My team. And so in order for me to be able to get out there, I used to be at the front desk 7 days a week, and now I got a good team. My son is working here full time for us. He's great with customer service. Robin Jager is phenomenal. She's been a great asset for us. We just hired Ashley Avery. She does a lot in the community. She's been a phenomenal asset. And so the team, they come in and they understand the importance of customer service. They understand the importance of making people feel special when they come in, treating them like family, educating them, and then really steering them in the right direction. Do they need to talk with nursing staff? Do they need to talk with a provider? And so that's the key, making people feel a welcome, making a very warm invitation when they come in, and then education. I think that's big, but my team has allowed me to get out there and do all this stuff. I wouldn't be able to get out there and go to all the bunch of chamber events and stuff like that if I was just sitting at the front desk. So again, the title of your podcast, On the Same Team, but really, it's about team is so important, and I don't think that a lot of people understand that, especially business owners. They think that they need to implement all of their practices, all of their knowledge. No, you know what? Sit back and listen. Let other people have some ideas, and really help them to invest and be invested in the business.
Yeah, and I think I always look at typically, the more you invest, the more you love something, right? And if you want people to stay with you and value, what you're doing together as a team, you gotta let them invest in it too. You can't just say, hey, like I just want you to do X, Y, Z, right? The more they invest, the more they're gonna love it. I always say that like with my wife and my kids, right? Like if you're falling out of love with somebody, give more to them, right? Just give everything you got to them. Typically, like that's just the way we work, right? That's why we love our kids so much because they take so much from us, right? We got to give them so much. They can't even survive without us for a couple of years, And it's like you invest so much in them that you love them, And I think, it's like having that same mindset. Like people love their business so much because they've invested so much. And if you want people to love your business too, let them invest in it. Give them some ownership, right? And that'll take everybody to that, like equally driven, space where it's like, okay, it's crazy how much everyone loves doing this now. And but that's hard to do as a business owner too, because like, yeah, we are so passionate and driven, but yeah, that's probably one of the hard things I think is give up a little bit, right?
And I manage hundreds of people at the hospital, and so trying to get everybody to have the same drive that I have is impossible. And so I'm a small business here, so really finding people that have that drive, that passion, and most of my employees have had their own health and wellness journeys and their struggles, and so it's great to hear their stories as well. Stories are impactful. They really are. And people are starting to resonate because people are starting to understand. They look at me from pictures from 3 years ago when I was almost 270 pounds. And so in 3 years on my health and wellness journey, I've lost 60 pounds and got off of 14 medications. And people are like, how did you do that? What, all this stuff and the questions, and they see the before and after, the transformation. They see that all of a sudden I have the most energy I've had in my adult life. I'm the best parent I've been in my adult life. I'm the most present husband that I am now. And so that's real. Those are real things, real stories, real transformations are what kind of show people. And when people start feeling better including myself, it's a sense of euphoria that you never want to go back to feeling like crap again. And the beauty is that my staff, again, have similar transformations and have had health struggles. And so they understand it and they believe it. And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right, got a few questions for you before we wrap up. One of the first ones, what's something that you do daily, Damon, that you feel like is critical to your success?
Yeah, I have two non-negotiables every day, and it's in the morning when I wake up. First and foremost is morning prayer. And so I'm a Christian. I really believe in thanking God for the day. I'm very blessed. I have four beautiful children, healthy children. I've got a beautiful wife. And so giving him thanks and praise for that is of the utmost importance to me. And so that's the very first thing that I do upon waking in the morning. And then secondly is I do box breathing. And so when I wake up, I want to wake up and start in a relaxed state so that rather than a stressful state and have my sympathetic nervous system, out of whack. So I wake up and I do a few minutes of prayer and breath work, and that kind of gets me going. That gets my mindset right for the morning, and then I'm able to get up and conquer my day.
Um, you know, and I was thinking about this on the way in when I was thinking about this podcast. I listened to a podcast by Rob Deerdeck. Do you remember who Rob is?
Yep. Yep. I do.
So Rob does a unique thing. He has basically his entire life in an Excel spreadsheet, and he tracks how he feels after every event and everything that he does, and then he puts a rating on the day, and he puts that data in. He's like I'm a data nerd and I want to know how good my life is, right? And I was like, dang, I was thinking about that this morning. I'm thinking about trying something like that, but like obviously prayer and breath work can make a difference in your day, right? And that's where like I was thinking, man, I need to, just figure out what really impacts my day and where I can get the most.
Without tracking everything. You know what I mean? It'll show your heart rate variability. You know what I mean? It'll show your vital signs at times. And so things like that. And you can also, and I encourage a lot of people, very similar to that without everything, but see how you feel after certain meals. You know what I mean? After certain meals, do you feel run down? Do you feel lethargic? You know what I mean? Or you have the afternoon blues after lunch, track that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you eat? Whole foods, good foods. And I do a lot of education on that stuff, but to make you feel energetic. So in the afternoon, so you complete your day strong. So you go home feeling present. And so that's a great idea, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think about I know stuff's gonna make me feel shitty, but sometimes I forget, right? And I think, oh, that did taste good. I'm gonna try that again. But then 3 hours later, I'm like, God, you
There's a
you
reason.
idiot.
There's a reason the food places don't use addiction. They use craveability, things like that. You know what I mean? Because it does taste good. Most of the things that taste good are really unique science projects, actually.
Yeah. 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 All right. What's a book that you'd recommend to anybody?
Um, I love the book Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means, who's a nominee for Surgeon General right now, because I believe that most of the things you do in life either promote good energy or bad energy, and that means the food we eat, the lifestyle we want, the relationships that we have, the people we surround ourselves with, and so you have to kind of look at that and see where you want to be, and because I truly think that. That this is all about empowering our bodies to function at the best. We all want to be the best that we can be, but are we really doing it? I mean, if we want to be a Formula One race car, we can't put sludge in it. And so how can we put high quality, high octane fuel in our bodies so that we are the best that we can be? And I love the book. It's got a lot of great quotes in there. I love what Dr. Casey Means stands for, how she's transformed. She is transforming health and wellness. And so I would encourage everybody to go out there and I'm a big audio book person. I listen to books all the time. I'm headed out for a road trip tonight. I'll drive 16 hours and I'll be listening to audio books the whole time and podcast.
All right. So, Good Energy by Dr. Casey Means. Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
phenomenal.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely check that one out. That's a new one. I haven't heard that one. Love that. If you had a day with no responsibility, just free day, what would you spend it doing?
Interesting. I'm a workaholic. I love helping people and I love working, but I try and get out every few months and get to the beach. I try and get out, get some sunshine in my life. Were in the Virgin Islands a few weeks ago, so getting that sand in between my toes, walking and natural grounding, salt air therapy and sunshine. There's not many better things that you can do, and I've never actually even met somebody who's in a bad mood walking on the beach.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I haven't been to the beach for a while, but I need to go back. I definitely would concur. I mean, what was it, 2 weeks ago, we had a beautiful day, and my son and I were outside, and I'm like, man, I cannot wait for take my shirt off weather. And my son's like, what? I'm like, yes, like that. When I can take my shirt off and just feel the sun on my entire body, I'm like that. There are not many times I'm happier.
We have to realize that sunlight used to be prescribed medicine. And so years ago, decades ago, they prescribed people just sitting out, getting vitamin D therapy, helping with their mood, their mental clarity, their focus, helping with all kinds of issues. And I am such a big believer in getting some sunlight, fresh air. It is amazing things. It does amazing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I love it. It's good for me. I know that. All right, where can people find you?
All over. So at Thrive Wellness Center here in town, Damon Pierce on Facebook, Just Thriving, Thrive Wellness Center. I've got a lot of different platforms, and so TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And so really getting out there and really just trying to help people, trying to transform lives one at a time. That's the beauty of this. A lot of us are in the health and wellness world together, and there's a health transformation going on right now, and just however we can help one person, that's the key.
Yeah, Just Thriving podcast. I'm assuming you're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube.
So, yeah, I'll be on Apple here soon, but Just Thriving, I just put my second episode out yesterday, actually, and so with a famous wellness guy out of Omaha, and so that's on YouTube and Spotify, and Just Thriving. So check that out and check out Thrive Wellness Center.
Yeah, I'm glad you're getting on Apple Podcasts. Like I'm not an Apple guy. Like I'm straight Android, but like my buddy's like, I can't find your podcast anywhere. I'm like, it's on Spotify and YouTube. Well, he goes, well, it's not on Apple Podcasts. I'm
I
like,
know.
come on.
I just walked in this morning and said, I didn't find it on Apple. I said, look on YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah, I got onto Apple at some point, but I'm like, come on. Like I'm just not that, My wife's all Apple too, so I should probably get on board, but I'm not a conformer, so I'm not doing it.
We're a lot alike.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thanks again, David. I appreciate you. We'll make sure to get some links to all your socials and your podcast, and looking forward to listening to the episode you dropped yesterday. Well, this won't come out for a couple weeks, so people will be able to go back and find it from a couple weeks ago. But thanks again for jumping on here.
Thank you.
Hopefully, yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna get to negative. How cold did your crowd chamber get?
We usually set it between negative 175 and negative 250. It's great. 3 minutes. It's not the most pleasurable 3 minutes, but you get out feeling euphoric.
Yeah, well, I'm in. I mean, if you can tell me negative 250, I'll give it a shot. I like to do hard things. Sounds like a fun time to me.
Okay.
All right, thanks again, David. See ya.
Thanks, buddy.